President Zelensky's address to the United States Congress last week contained a major request that American companies exit Russia immediately, which he said is, quote, flooded with our blood. So this week, Democrats in the House proposed legislation that would prohibit the United States from conducting business with companies who currently operate in Russia. The Federal Contracting for Peace and Security Act seeks to send a clear message to American companies. If you choose to remain in business in support of Vladimir Putin, you cannot remain in business with the United States government. For more, we're joined by Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, the chair of the House Oversight Committee, and the one who introduced the legislation. Welcome, Congresswoman Maloney. It's great to have you. So before we get... Excellent. Before we get into your bill, I want to get your reaction to the president's trip so far and his speech today.
Well, I think that President Biden delivered an excellent and historic speech. It was a speech that reassured and united our allies and made clear that we stand with the people of Ukraine. It was a powerful speech and caps off a trip that underscores and restores trust in American leadership in Europe and around the world.
So let's now focus in on your legislation. What do you hope to accomplish with this bill? If you're doing business with Putin, you're not doing business with us.
You made it very clear that's exactly what the bill does. When President Zelensky addressed us, he made it clear. He said that cut off the loopholes. He thanked us for cutting off the oil and the gas and for the sanctions. He said it wasn't enough. He needed more aid. He needed more support. And he said any dollar going to Russia is drenched in the blood of the Ukrainian people. And he asked us to close the loopholes. And I went back, and a huge loophole is the private contracting that we do in federal government. We let over $650 billion a year in private contracts. We're tracking it now. We think $26 billion of that is going to companies doing business with Russia. And this would say that if you're doing business with Russia, you're not going to be doing business with the United States.
So to your point, your legislation is not a straight-up ban on American companies doing business in Russia. It would apply only to U.S. contracts. So what more do you think could be done to encourage American companies to exit that Russian market?
Well, I am very encouraged by the response of the private sector. They are calling, they are saying, getting guidance on how they can remove their economic ties. Many of them have already pulled out. The numbers that we have, they change daily as American companies pull out of Russia. They want very much to support Congress, the United States of America, the Republicans and Democrats. We are united in supporting the Ukrainian people, and they want to also. They're taking it very seriously. I'm very encouraged by the response so far.
So we've seen President Zelensky himself sort of step up the pressure this week. President Zelensky called out French companies, including automaker Renault, saying they're sponsoring the Russian war machine by staying in Russia. What do you make of Zelensky's public campaign to encourage companies to exit the Russian market? Should we see more of that? And how do you think that plays out?
Well, he's fighting for his country. He's trying to cut off any type of aid going to Russia at this point because they have invaded his country, and he's fighting with everything he has. And if you can cut off the money going to Russia, then there's less money to spend attacking the Ukrainian people. I think he's been an incredible leader. And I am really reassured by how swiftly our allies in Europe and Asia united with us in support of the Ukrainian people.
So I want to get your thoughts on a report out of the Wall Street Journal that the U.S. is expected to announce new sanctions against Russian companies that provide technology for Russian military and intelligence services. Do you know anything about that, first off, and what impact do you think something like that may have?
I think it all has a tremendous impact. And why in the world should we be giving technology to Russia when they've invaded their neighbor and have this brutal war that they initiated? So we are trying to cut off sanctions. We're trying to strengthen them every day. This is my bill is part of the overall effort to cut off American taxpayers in any way helping Russia with their vicious attacks. And technology, cutting off technology, I think that's an excellent idea, and I would vote for it tomorrow when I go back to Washington if they put it on the floor.
Well, we look forward to that, Congresswoman, for sure. Rack that vote up. Thank you so much, Congresswoman Carolyn.